You do not want to miss this one. For years, people in Hollywood have called Jim Carrey insane or bizarre, pointing to his candid interviews and offbeat behavior, but what if they've got it all wrong? Jim isn't losing it, he's just done playing their games. He's been calling out the ridiculousness of fame, media, and culture in a way that makes a lot of people uncomfortable, and today, well, we're covering it all, so buckle up because this one's going to change how you see him. As always, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more videos just like this.
Tell me, is it true you're wandering the streets? You need a date to the party? What's up?
No. I'm doing just fine. I just, there's no meaning to any of this. So I wanted to find the most meaningless thing that I could come to and join, and here I am.
They're celebrating.
You got to admit it's completely meaningless.
Well, they say they're celebrating icons inside.
Celebrating icons, boy, that is just the absolute lowest aiming, possibility that we could come up with. It's like icons. Do you believe in icons? I don't believe in personalities. I don't believe that you exist, but there is a wonderful fragrance in the air. I don't care.
But Jim, you got really dressed up for the occasion. You look good.
No, I didn't.
Was that an accident?
I didn't get dressed up.
Who did?
There is no me.
There's no you.
No.
We're not here. This is a dream?
There's just things happening. And there are clusters of tetrahedrons moving around together.
Okay.
This interview was the one to start it all. It was New York Fashion Week back in 2017, and Jim was in the middle of a lawsuit where his ex-girlfriend's family was alleging he was responsible for her tragic passing away at her own hand, which was later dismissed, by the way. Despite the case being unresolved at the time, the media seized the moment to paint him in a negative light, claiming he was losing it. Headlines started popping up everywhere with sensationalist titles like Jim Carrey's Descent into Madness from the Daily Beast, and BuzzFeed's Jim Carrey just gave the most WTF interview of all time. If you didn't know that the Hollywood legend was on a spiritual journey and was trying to find himself, you'd instantly believe the narrative they were trying to push. In a later interview with E.T., Jim clarified what he meant with his answer, and it's pretty interesting.
There's been a lot of talk in the last few days, well, today recently, about
a lot of people making sound over here.
So much of that.
That's right.
People talking about an interview that you did at New York Fashion Week, and you talked about identity, and you did all these ideas. Do you think that people kind of just don't understand it, or they haven't clued in to this whole thing you're talking about of people wearing masks?
I think that we're all, we're all trying to add things to ourselves so that we can finally define ourselves, and then everybody will get us and they'll go, okay, this is what you are. And then if you actually get there, you will find it so empty that you'll realize that's really not what it's about. It's about not only just going with the flow, but it's about not taking it personal. It's like the difference between a house and my house is a world of difference, and it's the my that's the problem. So you can do all this without the my involved. You can do it in a way that it's not, life isn't happening to you, it's happening for for the good of everyone.
I have to give a bit of backstory here. Jim has been a longtime believer in the law of attraction. Before starting his career in acting, his family was struggling financially, so he had to work a full-time job after school at a local factory to support them. After moving to Hollywood, he started applying for gigs to advance his show business career, and in a bold move, in 1985, quote, he wrote himself a $10 million check for acting services rendered, dated it 10 years in the future to Thanksgiving of 1995, and kept it in his wallet. You could call it coincidence, fate, talent, or sheer luck, but by then, he'd be signing contracts for double that amount. What he was referencing in the ET interview is that even though he has, quote, made it and achieved a lot of his remarkable career, if one is still stuck to material things, it's all empty. To put it in a simpler term, the life that many Hollywood celebrities like to put out there to the world doesn't really interest him. Joe Rogan also noticed some of Jim's interviews and had this to say about him during one of his podcasts.
Boy, Jim's good.
Oh, it's brilliant. You know what's really interesting with him? He's taken like a severe psychological and I guess philosophical turn where he's just thought about life and things. He must have had like some psychedelic experiences too.
I think so. Sounds like it.
Yeah, because he's just talking about like what matters and what doesn't matter. And and there's just a bunch of like interviews and clips of him discussing things where you're like, whoa, like this guy he's not talking like Jim Carrey, the world famous A-list actor who's had gigantic smash movies. He's not talking like that at all. He's like talking like some guy who's just trying to sort of understand his place in the universe.
Yeah,
this
he really is.
Really profound way. He's a very well thought out guy.
That's absolutely right. Although some people love to label him as the crazy guy, the reality is Jim is just taking a philosophical life approach. He isn't out there spouting random words to grab attention. He's talking about the way we think about identity, purpose, and existence. But because he's a Hollywood star, everyone, especially those in the industry, expect him to stay in his lane and not go into anything too out there. Why? Because we've been accustomed to celebrities taunting how lavish their lifestyle is on a daily basis. It's what they do to feel good about themselves. And I would love it if Jim went on Joe's podcast, because we'll definitely be getting an interesting conversation between the pair.
How's life? Everything good?
It's so beautiful. It really is, especially when I'm absent from it.
Do you feel like you're separated from the rest of the world and what's going on?
No, not separated at all. In fact, it's the exact opposite. Don't get me wrong, Jim Carrey is a great character, and I was lucky to get the part. But I don't think of that as me anymore.
You don't? Not at all?
Not really, no. I used to be a guy who was experiencing the world, and now I feel like the world and the universe experiencing a guy.
It's safe to say he's moved beyond the typical law of attraction mindset and is on a much deeper spiritual journey. He once even mentioned he went to the Mojave Desert in Arizona, quote, with the Lakota Native Americans, where he was left stranded on a mountaintop in sweltering heat for 24 hours, with only a tiny knife to ward off wild animals and snakes. But although he was terrified and thought he was going to die, he eventually found what he was seeking in a vision. These spiritual explorations have played a major role in his life beyond self-discovery. He credited them with helping him overcome depression, allowing him to step away from prescription drugs, in addition to embracing a healthy diet, where he once revealed in an interview, quote, "I don't eat wheat, dairy, sugar, soda, coffee, do drugs, alcohol, or tobacco." But you might be wondering, what started this entire thing in the first place? Well, it goes way farther back than you think.
When Man in the Moon came out, there was all this talk about the process that you went through when you became Andy Kaufman, essentially. Did you ever have it in the back of your mind back then that you wanted to share that story in this way that you're getting to do now?
Yeah, and I thought I had become Andy Kaufman, but there was no me actually at the end of it all. I realized that there was, that this character was making choices to play a character, and so that's what kind of happened, and that's what Chris found in this interview and in this footage, that there was actually a existential, not a crisis, but a discovery going on,
Yep, it's his method acting that started it all, where his experience on Man on the Moon seemed to spark something in him, and it's been an interesting journey so far. His views on spirituality and detachment from materialism stand in stark contrast to Hollywood's core values. While they celebrate red carpets and million-dollar deals, Jim speaks openly about the emptiness of those pursuits, and his stance not only makes him a misfit of the industry, but also a thought-provoking figure, daring to question the system from within its own glittering walls. I'd love to know your thoughts here, so let's get the conversation rolling in the comments down below. And by the way, if you want your friends to see this eye-opening video, please share it with them. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.